Okay, good morning. Welcome to the Power Platform track of Teams Team Fest. It's a fantastic early start to the day. My alarm just went off. I would have still been in bed at this point, so it's lovely to see so many people at this early hour. I'm Sharon Sumner and I'll be presenting the first session. So some house rules: we have you all on hard mute, so that means that if you want to ask any questions during the session, I need you to please put them in the chat and we'll get to them at the end. Or please raise your hand if you would like to come off mute and actually have a conversation, in which case I'll promote you to a presenter so that you can speak for the duration of your question, which we're more than happy to do. And we'll do that at the end, or you can put your hands up as we go. Now, as I'm presenting and moderating for this first session, I can't guarantee that I'll be able to keep my eye on the chat as we go through, but we'll definitely have the questions at the end of the first session. So thank you very much for joining us in here. Just some house rules, like I say, please be respectful of all other people in the meeting, and let's try and be polite and well-mannered to each other. So thank you very much for joining. I'm going to talk to you today, and I'm going to keep this a really light session because, you know, it's early in the day and you've just seen what was a fantastic keynote there. But I want to talk to you about the Power Platform and Teams together and how we can use the pair to get to value faster, either as a consultant for end customers or the end customer. So we're looking really at how the Power Platform plays nicely with Microsoft Teams. So let's get started. Let's tell you a little bit more about me. So I am a Business Applications MVP, so that's all around the Power Platform side of the world. I actually am a SharePoint person. I come from SharePoint originally, which is why on LinkedIn you'll find me as SharePoint Sharon. I'm also the leader of the Cambridge, that's in the United Kingdom, Power Platform User Group. We meet quarterly, all virtual at the moment. We've got some great speakers coming up. I think we've got April Dunham and Heather Newman this month, later in the month, so do join us for that. And we tend to get together and enthuse about the Power Platform and look at what each other's creating and have some great conversation and networking around that. I would always advocate joining user groups. They are the very best way to get to know people in the Power Platform. We have a massively strong community and I would recommend that everybody leverage that community. My contact details on there. Please do reach out to me on Twitter, join me on the blog or in a conversation on LinkedIn. I love to talk to people, and there's a cup of coffee on there because I always say yes to a coffee. So if you want to have a chat through the Power Platform or ever enthuse about it, then just ping me and we'll find some time of an evening or a weekend and we'll chat through what you're up to and have a virtual coffee. That'd be great. So let's push on. So I believe in this concept of getting to value faster. And what I love about the Power Platform is that it is so much on message with this. So, I mean, so much so that I'm literally writing the book. The point of getting to value faster is about leveraging that investment that you've made in the cloud and specifically in Office or Microsoft 365 as a platform. We're looking at how businesses can have the tools to attract and retain staff. So how we can do work so productively that it's actually going to end up in retaining the people that we want to work with. And obviously at the moment, working remotely is an absolute must. And Microsoft Teams is really the key tool for this. And all businesses need to get to value faster. I'm a firm believer that the more we use the tools, the more that we engage with Microsoft on using the tools, the better the tools will get at speed. And it's that speed that I want to bring back to all businesses. So let's talk about Microsoft Teams, and hopefully you're all here because you're using Teams and you love it, or maybe not. But this is the message on the Teams website, and this is really how Teams was pitched right up to maybe 6 months ago. This was the extent of the Teams toolset, and it was all about bringing that team together, replacing emails and chat, and this collaboration around files. But it's absolutely exploded. It's become so much more, and as the background service teams at Microsoft and the different product alignments are coming together, there's so much more going into it as a product. And a lot of that is powered by the Power Platform, even though it probably doesn't look like it's the Power Platform to begin with. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to really high level surface look at what those technologies are that are driven by the Power Platform. And we're just going to go through some of those technologies and what's new and exciting and how we can do that integration piece. The whole point of business process integration with Teams then is to give us that single pane of glass experience. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to make the technology so useful that we don't really even know it's there. And that's really been the mantra of the Power Platform all along, which is why it's such a powerful citizen developer tool, because the technology is nicely hidden behind the interfaces that we're currently using. That said, it's ridiculously powerful and also a really good code tool as well as a low code tool. But the point is that we want to have organizations leveraging those Office 365 licenses by using the tools, and we want to take them on this journey of empowering teams with the background Power Platform tooling. Now, what I want to really quickly go through with you, and you wouldn't think of this as a Power Platform tool, but actually there's some really good stuff in the background, is the new kid on the block, which is Microsoft Lists. Now, Microsoft Lists, hopefully you've had a chance to have a look at these and have a play. These are really great. And the point of these is exactly the message I'm making, is that they are starter tools. You can hit the ground running very, very quickly and deliver into the business. And what we're looking at is how we can develop more of these as a template structure to help businesses move on. And if you haven't seen them, you know, they've got some fantastic templates in here. So the whole point of bringing Microsoft Lists, which is effectively a SharePoint team, but with some great user interface and some pre-set up integration into the Power Platform, Power Automate, etc., is to bring you that speed of delivery. So we've got some fantastic templates already out there, such as the managing assets. We've also got tracking issues, and you can see that these lists are beautifully laid out such that they give you information directly on the screen with color and with highlighting. They're also linked directly into the Graph API, so we've got some fantastic integration with the user itself. And we can extend them, which is what I want to show you a little bit of. Now, I appreciate that everybody can show you all these nice flashy decks, can show you a great video about how it's going to be. So I just wanted to really quickly show you for real how easy it is to use something like Microsoft Lists. So I've just set up I've pre-recorded this so that I can talk to you at the same time. Just done a little demo of how we do this. So we're in a team, we're in Teams, and we're just going to hit on the dots and find lists. We're going to add a list to a team. And here we need to search for the team that we want to add that to. So we're going to put this in my TeamsFest demo, and we're just going to set that up. And this literally sets up the tab for the first time for you. So that's just doing a little bit of plumbing in the background. And already we're here. The app is installed and we're ready to start playing with those lists. So if we just go ahead and click on create a list, we can now see the templates that are available, and these are available in everybody's tenancy. So they're there for us to use straight away. Now, it's all very good having a look through here and seeing what they look like, but actually you need to get a feel. And this is what I really like about this as a technology, is that they've given you some fantastic previews of what this could look like, what you could use this for. Because when you first start a list, it's very empty and it's difficult to imagine what you're going to do with that. So seeing these demos and seeing these live instances of pre-filled lists is really very important. So if we go ahead and start a new Microsoft list, we're just going to use the event inventory. We're going to give it a rocket because why not? And we're going to have a look at what this list could do for us. So again, if you just start from an empty list, it's really difficult to envisage. But looking at the new item list here, and you can see I'm in dark mode, so it's not really very intuitive on this form where all the fields are. It's not as nice looking as I would like it to be, but we can change all of that. That's coming. So we're just going to put in some details here. What I really like about this is this could be an event itinerary for an event I'm running. So I run the user group, so I can be putting in here my different user groups and the different sessions that are coming within those user groups. Or I could be using it to monitor my own speaking activity, or I could be looking at, you know, how the exec team in the business is attending sales functions, or how the sales team is represented at industry functions throughout the year. And as you can see, there's some nice integration there. It's got my little picture from the tenant, you know, and it's broken up the list a little with some of this with this nice formatting, conditional formatting that's available on these lists. So that's literally just setting it up. But what if I want to, excuse me, that's jumped on. What if I want to actually empower that and start using the Power Platform directly with this? So under the hood, it's a SharePoint list. So we can immediately use Power Automate to do any automation. So if I had an event, I could be going off in the background with Power Automate to check that the people that I've put here as speakers, if they're internal to the organization, we could have a flow running to see if are available. We could go and check their calendars. We could go and add it to their calendars if we wanted to. But what I'm just really quickly going to show you is how you can customize the form. So like I said, the form wasn't really that intuitive to use, I didn't think, in the dark mode, because everything seemed to disappear into the background. So let me show you how to take a perfectly lovely form and make it but ugly. So we're going to jump to SharePoint, which is the only place at the moment where we can get to this. And you can see at the top, we have the standard Power Apps tab. So if we just customize the form, and again, this is a Power Apps form, so this is a custom form on a SharePoint list. So when we created the Microsoft list, it has the SharePoint list under the hood and that nice layer of formatting that we see in the foreground. In my usual style, I'm going to open this in Power Apps and, like I say, take something that looked okay to begin with and mess with it. So I'm not the world's greatest designer, but I can show you where the tools are so that you can be the world's greatest designer. So what we're doing here is real time. I'm just showing you how quickly this gets you to the custom form. What it's doing in the background is sewing it all up and making sure that we're connected to the list as a data source, and it's going to save back into the list for us. So let's just do a simple change. Let's change the background of this form so that it sticks out beautifully for me. Let's make this a 550/50, which will make it a beautiful shade of lime green. And that's all I'm going to do just to demonstrate the point. So I'm just going to save this form. And again, it's already tied into the team's SharePoint site. So we've already got permissions. We don't need to share it. We just need to publish it. So publishing that means that it is available to be used directly on that SharePoint list. And now if we come back into Teams, we'll just click off, click on just to refresh that tab. And now when we click new item, we get but ugly green experience. So I'm not saying that my form is any better. What I'm saying is it's completely customizable. So hopefully you get the point there, that we can very quickly start adjusting these forms to make them exactly as we wanted to. So what we would have done in the real world with that, albeit very quickly and getting us to this value faster, is that we would have potentially put in some logic that says, if I assign a certain speaker, you know, these fields show up. If I put in a certain session code, it's going to go and have a look at what other sessions I've got and make sure there aren't any clashes. You know, we can build some intelligence into that Power Apps form. But like I say, I'm not here to teach you how to use the Power Apps today. I'm here to show you the integration with those. So we basically have the ability, even with the new kid on the block Microsoft lists, to be able to apply the speed of Power Apps and the Power Platform and that integration piece. Sorry, that keeps playing my video. So what else can we do? So let's have a look at Power Automate. So, and again, we can do this just within a Teams environment. Let's not forget what we're looking for is that single pane of glass. So we're looking to remove the technology from the end user. So this is a solution that I've got some videos out there on to show you the full thing, but I just wanted to really quickly show you what we've got here. So from a user perspective, this is a contract team. And we have a couple of lists that matter. One list is the contract details, where we can add in some details that we want to put in a long and complex contract, but we don't want to have to sit and create the contract every time. So the premise for this system is that we have a complex document that has places that we want to fill that data in, but we need to get the most recent version of that document without even thinking about it. So in this solution, we've got a couple of documents. There's a statement of work, which is the out-of-the-box Microsoft Word statement of work, which is a beautiful thing, but has a great number of areas where you can fill in data. So what I've done here is I've got a details list where I filled in, this was a CogX demo that I did, where I filled in some details that I want to be populated within that document. So under the hood, Flow has picked up those details on creation, and it is completing a contract document for me. So you can see there the contract details. If I jump to completed contracts and do a refresh, then hopefully we can see the CogX one turn up. Maybe we'll do 2 refreshes. It takes about a minute to create a document. So there's our document. And if we open that up just within Teams to have a look, let's do a bit of a search. You can see here it's populated my name, and somewhere it would have put CogX, which is what we put in the other field. There it is. So you can see that it's putting those in insert fields for us. So this was achieved as actually a really simple Power Automate flow to write, and it's using the premium connector, which completes a Word document for you using the values that you pass it. So under the hood, the technology is actually really simple, but on the surface, it's even simpler still. So all I need my contract team to know is, where do I put in the details? What type of contract do I want? Let's just have a cup of coffee, and while we're doing that, the contract turns up for us. So in the time it takes to just sit back and think about the solution, we've got that Word document auto-populated for us, and it takes care of getting you the most recent template, etc. Again, we're getting to that value faster. We just saved me having to find the right document in the first place, make sure the details go in the right boxes, which is the same every time, and save that document down. So we've probably just saved a couple of hours work right there just by having 2 lists surfaced within Microsoft Teams, and like I say, extracting the technology from the end user. Now what we can do is we can pull that back the other way. So anybody that deals with contracts knows that once you've created the contract, it goes out there and becomes many, many hundreds of things before it comes back to you as something that the organisation needs to care about and monitor. So here's a solution that was going to use Power Apps, and it's going to use the AI builder to have a look at a document that comes back in again, a signed contract, and use that data in the PDF that's coming back to us to extract the data, put it in a SharePoint list so that we can then monitor for expiry, etc. So let's just have a quick look at how this solution is working. And again, I just need to add in the Power App. Again, all we're doing here is we're adding the Power App into the team. So that's under all apps. So if we bring in my signed contract reader, not a pretty thing, a very functional thing. And the contract reader has only one job, and that is to pull the data out of the document. We then also have a signed contract list, which is where we've probably put that PDF. And then we just need to bring in the final output, which is a SharePoint list, which is going to bring us the data for expiry. So here we want to know the signed contract data. So again, we've just got 3 locations that we've added in here. So we can put the signed contract in a local folder. We can then come to the contract reader, hit the beautiful Analyze button. Again, I didn't even bother labeling the fields in this one because it's just to show you real quick the demo. So we're going to pull in a document, and it's going to pull out for us the company name, the contact name, the expiry date, and their role in the organisation. This one doesn't have expiry date on it actually, but I would look to pull that out in a further example of this application. Just pulling another document for you. While we don't get to see a preview of the document itself, we get the details. Save is just going to post that, and again, we could have done some fancy actions on save. We could have made this Power App really properly functional and beautiful, but all we did was we saved the data back to this list. So the whole point of the solution is to extract data. And again, with the Power Platform, that's not as hard as it looks. So all we've done is we have trained a model in the background to be able to recognize a summary sheet. Now, our summary sheet that we've used on this one, so you can see I've only trained that model with 6 documents, which is not very many documents. So what we did is we looked for a key value pair, and that's really what the AI builder is looking for to be able to do this job for you. So we're looking for date signed and a date. So when you go through the AI builder training process within the Power Platform, it's going to pull out the fields that it can find data for. And the way that we've used this is that we've put this summary sheet on the front of any formatted document underneath, so that as part of the signed PDF, we have this summary sheet for the AI builder to read. That means that we could have any type of document or backing to this to be able to create this. Now, what we did with this solution is that the first part, where we have Flow filling in the details, it fills in one of these for us as well. So it's only just a case of what data in here has changed by the time it comes back to us that it's going to pick up. So, and again, really, really nice and simple. So this solution allows us to then pull data from documents that are coming in and put that in a list. It can then extend to have a flow in the background to be able to put notifications in, beautiful adaptive cards that come in Teams as a notification to say this contract is expiring to the right person or to the right channel in the right area. So we go back to that collaborative working again. So instead of just having all of these locations out there in the right place to go in SharePoint, these are all beautifully surfaced for you as tabs right there within Teams. So you've got that fantastic user experience. Now, coming up a bit later today, you've got the next iteration of how Power Apps can into Microsoft Teams, and I won't cover that because I see that there are other speakers on the track that are going to cover that for you, with the Project Oakdale and how we can use CDS locally within Microsoft Teams, and that may replace some of what we've got here in terms of the SharePoint list extension or not. Let's find out later. So some of the other stuff that we can put within Teams, as we have within the Power Platform, is just some generic apps. So, for example, this was an app that we were asked to create for, it's for a medical health institution that is monitoring the mental health and has mental health locations around the UK. And what's happening in this as a business is they're asking each of their locations to fill in a brand new Excel spreadsheet every day with the number of infections and unfortunate COVID information about patients, just in numbers, and to state their current status of the PPE that they had on staff, that they have available to them, and what their requirement is going to be for the next day, so that they could monitor the numbers of patients with certain levels of infections, and they could also prepare that PPE deliveries. Now, the problem with this solution is that because it was so manual, people were going and filling in this Excel spreadsheet every day, and you've only got to have 40 sites nationally, so that you've got one poor person with 40 Excel spreadsheets to collate every day to bring all this data together before you can even start to look at it. And the problem that we help them address is that it's not always possible for their people on staff to be either in Microsoft Teams or on the mobile app, but they had instances where some were administrative staff and were on the front desk and were able to use Microsoft Teams, and some of the guys were out on the ground and needed to be able to just very quickly put this data into a mobile app. But they didn't want a different experience for those two different audiences. So again, Power Apps to the rescue. It's the same experience on the mobile phone as it is within Microsoft Teams itself. So the app's designed for the phone and then just brought into Microsoft Teams as a tab. It's a really simple app. What it does is it knows who you are, so it can fill in the details about where you are, which particular site you're at, because that's the site that you're registered to with Active Directory. So, and then it literally is just asking you, this is today's date, and these are the numbers that we need to report. So that being the infected patients, how many have recovered, and those unfortunate deaths. And this was deployed very, very quickly and easily for those teams. Now, the power of this is that that data was reported quickly and easily, but then gave immediate impact to the overall business to be able to manage and help with those situations. So the fact that we could see how many people had easily or easily see how many people had reported their data, how many people were left to report their data, meant that we could take some immediate action. We can send out some messages prompting for that data. But the moment that data was added to the list, within the Power App, we had Power Automate under the hood, updating the data set that we're seeing here through Power BI every time an entry was put in. So we weren't waiting an hour for a data refresh. We weren't having to do a manual data refresh here. So it's just touching the data set every time you add a record and updating it for us, which means that those people that are in charge of, for example, the PPE and being able to get deliveries out quickly, very quickly see the data, can see how they need to distribute the stock that they have and take action really quickly. Really simple solution. We've not done anything massively fancy with the technology, but we got to that business value because Teams was there to give us that single pane of glass interface. Another one I wanted to quickly show you was a learning solution that this is really quite knocked up. But what we've done here is we've brought together SharePoint pages in Teams, and we're also using Stream, Microsoft Forms. We've got Power BI in here for the reporting, and we're using a flow under the hood. So, you know, there's quite a lot of moving parts, but again, it solves those requirements by bringing all of that Power Tools platform together. So essentially what we have here is the requirement was we need to be able to train our teams within individual teams on skill sets. So this is modeled on the sales team. So how to work with leads, how to work with opportunities. But they also wanted a solution that could roll up to an overall level of learning. So the mantra for this particular organisation we were working with was we want people to continually learn, and we want them to compete on their learning with each other to try and be the best. And it didn't matter whether you were in the sales team or the HR team or the marketing team, you should all have equal opportunity to get to learning, and therefore you can assess your learning across the entire organisation as well as within those individual departments. So this was deployed within each team. So as you know, a team has SharePoint in the background, so we simply put a SharePoint page there and surfaced it within the team. We created a list for the learning paths and a watch video link that jumps out to Microsoft Stream where that video is. Once we jump to that video, as we're watching the video here, we have the ability on the right hand side here to add interactivity, and you can do this as many times as you like within a video. So what we did is we popped in some Microsoft Forms to be able to test the knowledge at the right point in the video. Now this was a really small one. And it comes in at 1:47, which is right at the end of the video. So as you're watching the video, seamless experience, it then pauses the video and jumps and brings you that knowledge check up on the screen. You scroll down and answer the relevant questions, and what that does is then allows you to hit send and then continue on with the video. So you could have this at certain points within a video. Again, this is a very light example of how the technology was used. So what we then did was we used the flow under the hood to be able to assess whether the questions were correct and what the score was in coming back. And we had a really simple scoring mechanism in that every time you did a test and we got a score that was a positive contribution, we were adding 50 points to the leaderboard. So you would be able to do that learning path, come back, and you would see that your amount of books in my rather rudimentary chart here, you would see that it had got slightly longer. So we were just using a visual there to demonstrate how well you were doing compared to others. And a little bit further down the page, we had a personal, this is my own learning path and which ones I've completed and which ones I haven't. At the same time as Flow was taking the form results, it was updating the data set for this particular graphic on here, but it was also posting it to a list of centralized learning to say, here's a learning entry, this person has completed this path and has earned this score, so that we could then jump to a company-wide graph surfaced within a different team. But this was very much, we wanted a team to look at sales and we wanted the overall organization in an all-hands group to be able to look at a competitive score across the company. So again, the technologies used here, lots of them all brought together, but from the end user experience, it's a single tab within Teams where I can jump to watch the video, I can take the test, I can come back again, and there is my score. Seamless. So while we have these fantastic technologies under the hood, it's basically empowered so that we barely see them. And we've got a lot of apps that we can start from. This list of the Power Apps templates is getting bigger and bigger. And like I say, as we see more common things used in organizations, there's also a community site that you can go to where those templates are being developed, and updates of these are coming through thick and fast. So we've got some fantastic stuff if you just go and look at the app templates that you might want to just deploy into Teams immediately, straight away, and start using. One of the ones that we really like is the meeting. It's on here, meeting capture, there it is, because that will push tasks into Planner for you, which again you can bring back and integrate. And with Teams tasks coming, it's not quite here yet, that's going to be another application like Microsoft Lists that we can super empower by adding those apps on the front end for that. So just a quick example. So Eduardo, who I met about a year ago at a conference in Orlando, and this month has been awarded the MVP. So congratulations, Eduardo, if you're out there. Now, what Eduardo did was he took a problem that one of the companies that he works with in Brazil had, where they were taking 8 hours a day for 3 analysts to complete some data. And he simply made a Power App that solved the problem and then embedded it in Teams so that the team could have that power where they were. And that's really the benefit of putting it in Teams. And I often use this as an example because now it takes just 1 hour and 30 minutes total for the company to get the data and collate the data. And I can't read a lot of these because of obviously it's it's not in English. But he tells me that he's saving a year is massive. Now, it's not just about creating that cost saving, and where I'd really like this to get to, and the emphasis that we try to put with the user group that I run, is that we want you to think this way first. Let's not get to the point where we've got 8 hours a day for 3 analysts. Let's deliver in some functionality that makes it simple from the get-go. And that's really, to my mind, the job of the Power Platform. We've also got a massive amount of connectors, so we can reach out with the Power Platform. So we don't need Microsoft Teams to start connecting to these connectors because Power App front end or a Power Automate to bring that data to us. So there's loads of stuff that we can start leveraging that is effectively a step away through the Power Apps platform. And the community itself is strong and it's abundant, and this stuff is out of date. And on here, I mean, this was nearly a year ago now, and we had 1 million active community members, and it just gets more and more. And in the remote world, there are more people like me out there that are willing to spend our evenings and our weekends talking to community members and solving individual problems, because it builds and it makes that creative experience out there so that we can share from each other much better, much richer. So please do get involved in any community events that you get to take part in. So some of the stuff that I'm not going to cover off with you today because I'm already at my 30 minutes and because we've got it coming up. So we've got, and we can see from the track today, we've got a couple of sessions about Power Virtual Agents and chatbots. We've got a session, at least one, about Oakdale and how we can bring the Power Platform in using a local instance of CDS or Project Oakdale or whatever it is we're calling it at the moment. We've even got a 3D and geospatial features in Teams. I mean, there's some really powerful stuff here along with the Power Platform. So this is the great stuff that you've got to look forward to today. So I'm going to stop talking to you in a minute. I'm going to have a look at the chat to see if there's any questions. Do go and put some questions in the chat. But I just wanted to show you that it's not just low code when we're working with the Power Platform. And I've had some organizations implement this in their teams in, it's not a breakout room, but it's a break room. So this is something that we developed that I first showed off last year. So this is a fully working version of Pac-Man built in a Power App. So we have some developers that are gamers. A lot of our developers are gamers, in fairness, and have a passion for gaming. So this is a live Power App with a leaderboard. You can see we're going to probably die very quickly. There's a reason I'm talking and not playing. I absolutely suck at this game, but I love it. And what we have is the ability with some really complex math. One of our ghosts isn't even working there because the logic to get the ghosts going in the right direction is really quite complex. But this was a ridiculously fun project for the team to work on, just to show that if you want to use some hardcore code under the hood, then that's really possible with Power Apps. So don't just think that this is a lightweight version. We can deliver this complex stuff within the Power Apps and the team's environment. So, like I say, I'm ridiculously social. I love talking to people, and I'm more than happy to hang out with you anytime. If you scan the QR code there, that will give you all of my social information, blog, LinkedIn, etc. So please do scan the code, get in touch, and let's start a conversation.